Well, welcome back to the show, and we are so excited to have Randy Sutton on the show. He's former retired Las Vegas Metropolitan Lieutenant, as you know, the founder of the Wounded Blue. Got to check that organization out. But this week, he's been reporting live from Pima County, Arizona, on the Nancy Guthrie kidnapping. You've probably seen him on Fox News. He's been doing the work there for them. We wanted to bring him on because Randy started off sort of talking about the investigation. And what he's been talking about lately is leadership. And of course, our podcast is about leadership. And I didn't want to put Randy in a bad spot, but since he's telling the world about the poor leadership that he's witnessing, I figured we'd bring him on the show to give you some details on that. Before we get going, Randy, kind of give us the breakdown of the climate there. Obviously, there's things that you're experiencing that our audience was probably curious about. This is a very timely topic. What are you seeing there on the ground?
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on, Travis. As a law enforcement professional, it pains me to publicly criticize another law enforcement organization or even a person, especially when it comes down to leadership. You and I have had many conversations about the importance of leadership, and what I'm seeing here is textbook how leadership can affect a major investigation. So let's break it down a little bit, because I've been doing a deep dive into this agency and the leadership under the sheriff here. Now, let's talk about what's happened here. So we're now we're like day 14, I believe, of the kidnapping, the abduction of Nancy Guthrie. And this has captured the attention of the world. I mean, every media outlet that exists is here, basically, or has been here. Most have actually left now. Fox is one of the few that's still here covering it. But the interest in this and bringing the attention to law enforcement and their efforts in bringing her home has really focused the world on policing. Everyone wants Nancy Guthrie home alive. As the days tick by, you and I have investigated enough serious crimes like this to know that each day goes by where we don't find her diminishes her, her chances to come back. And that's heartbreaking to say, but it's reality. We all pray for a miracle that we find her, or that law enforcement finds her. But let's be real here. The chances are diminishing as time goes by. So we have this one. This is one of the highest profile investigations I think I've ever seen. So
Yeah.
So now we have Tucson is where we are, but the city of Tucson has its own police department, and they are a very active police department. They had about 50 murders last year. Now, why do I say that? Because they have a very experienced homicide bureau. Pima County, which surrounds Tucson and the unincorporated areas, they have a sheriff's department. And the sheriff here, Sheriff Nanos, was recently reelected. He was sheriff here for 4 years, lost his election to another individual, and then the following election, he narrowly squeaked by with getting elected again. Now, since that time, it's been about a year. He has a reputation here within the police agency of, well, let me just put it this way. I have yet to find somebody on the police department that thinks he's a great leader.
Yeah, Randy, I first heard Betsy Smith say this. Of course, Betsy, a board member at the Wounded Blue, she's been out there with you. I first heard this comment. Now, I know about Pima County. Obviously, I've been in the area a lot like you. I knew the reputation of the overall leadership there. I did not know about this sheriff specifically, but obviously his leaders will reflect him oftentimes, unfortunately. It's not just him that is maybe a bad leader. But Betsy sort of talked about the intimidation that he kind of reigns over people and the fear that he puts in people. That's when I first heard it, and then I heard you follow up with it. I'll let you continue.
So, vindictive leadership. is something that I've experienced before. Every police officer I know that's got, any more than 5 or 6 years on may have experienced a leader like that. Maybe a sergeant, somebody who lets his personal feelings interfere with the way he does his leadership role. When you have the top of the food chain, the sheriff of the county, and he adopts that type of leadership, you have trauma within the agency. Here's an example. Now, I talked about the homicide bureau. They last year they had about 5 murders, so they don't have a lot of murders here, but they had a very experienced several homicide detectives. Unfortunately, they're no longer working homicide. Yep. They're counting paper clips or something because they got on the wrong side of the sheriff and he just said, "You're no longer a homicide detective." Now they have homicide detectives, one of which, it's my understanding, has never investigated a homicide. And then we expect these guys to perform at the top levels. It's impossible. You're asking the impossible of people, especially with homicide work. You know as well as I do.
The years it takes to become proficient in that. I mean, it's almost a 5-year field training program before they even let you go and investigate homicides on your own.
Yeah, exactly. And so you have inexperienced detectives who have now been given the most high profile murder or investigation, which has to be, they're looking at it as a homicide. There's no doubt in my mind. Some people don't want to hear that, but that's the reality. They're looking at every possibility of this being a murder. And then we expect they're going to perform at the top level. So because of the sheriff's leadership or the lack of, we're seeing a deterioration of the ability for this unit to investigate. Now, let's look at some of the other aspects of this. When this investigation first began, came in as a missing person, but when the law enforcement got there, they found enough evidence there to determine this isn't just an elderly woman walking away, right? She's 84 years old. She is, according to all reports, is very sharp mentally, has limitations physically, as 84-year-olds do, has to take medication. Well, they found blood evidence there leading to the outside of the home. If you don't investigate this as a major crime, then there's something really wrong here. So at first, they called in the search and rescue to look for an elderly woman. And from my sources, the sheriff was told this isn't a search and rescue. This is a major investigation. And he basically told the search and rescue unit, you go out and you search. So how much time was lost there? Now, at the same time, knowing that this was a probable abduction, which he said very, very early on, they didn't call the FBI. Of all the people to call when you have an abduction, a kidnapping, who do you call? You call the FBI.
Yeah, and I was going to say that, Randy. Sorry to cut you off, but the FBI resources on kidnappings far surpasses any local agency because they do that on such an international basis. Now, with that said, a local homicide, probably not the FBI strong suit, right? But You're right. Kidnapping investigations is it. But that homicide component is why it's even more troubling if Pima County has no experience because of leadership. The FBI is probably not going to help a whole lot with that because they just don't investigate homicides on a daily basis. But you're right. Not calling them in immediately on a kidnapping or abduction seems wild and crazy to me.
Now it's come out now over time that that the Pima County forensics folks are the ones that process the scene. Of all forensics in this world, there's nobody better than the FBI.
Yep.
How much evidence was lost because of people trampling on the scene, because of the search and rescue people there,
the media right up at the front door.
Well, and then they released the scene.
Yeah.
Within like 20.
They're cleaning the pool, and delivery people are coming up, and you never get that scene back, Randy. You can never get that back.
Within like something like 24 hours, they released the scene. And when I heard the sheriff give his first press conference, and then the second one where he said they released the scene, and he rationalized it in some way that made no sense at all. I was thinking, we got a problem here. So now let's go back to the first press conference the sheriff did. You and I have seen a lot of press conferences by leadership. The eyes of the world are upon him in this for this investigation. And watching his antics and the methodology of the way he communicated left me speechless. He was wandering all over the place. He gave information that he later walked back. He was tearful at one point. It was amateurish is one word I'll use, but it didn't make any sense. And then he gave another one where he walked back some of the comments from the first one, and it was a mess. It was a mess. And I was thinking, this is the leader of this agency? At that point, I'm already doing research, and I'm hearing from very reliable sources that this guy has no respect from the people that work for him. If the people that work for you don't respect you, don't respect your abilities, don't respect your leadership, that is a problem for criminal investigations. And that's what we're seeing playing out here, Travis.
You're right, Randy. You can get away with poor leadership, cowardly leadership in times of peace. You won't internally. Your people won't respect you. They won't be loyal to you. They won't trust you. Everything breaks down internally. But the public as a whole doesn't necessarily see that, because this is not just about Pima County. You and I, as you said, we talked about this across the country, some of the problems with law enforcement leadership. But when it goes public, it comes out very quickly. You cannot get away with being a coward when it comes to leadership when the spotlight's on you. And that came out, as you said, very, very quickly.
So let's talk about morale for a moment. The men and women at Pima County Sheriff's Department are working their asses off, right? They've been called in off of vacation. Their days off have been canceled. They're working, double shifts. They're being run ragged, and their morale prior to this was in the toilet. Now we've got these men and women who are facing stress that are stressors that are beyond the norm. And let me change my hat from being a commentator for a moment to going back to the Wounded Blue. And of course, the Wounded Blue, we help injured and disabled officers, and we deal with post-traumatic stress, on a regular basis. I'm seeing it here.
Yeah,
I am seeing the effects it's having on these men and women, and of course, we're a confidential organization, so I can't comment on individuals, but we've started working with some of these guys, and I'm seeing it firsthand, Travis. And this is once again, this is a leadership issue.
That's what I was going to say, Randy. It's not the long hours. It's not the canceled vacation. It's the leadership that puts the pressure and the stress on these men and women. Of course, we see this nationwide. Unfortunately, that's why the Wounded Blue exists. But you couple what they're dealing with from a national, international spotlight, the work hours, and the morale, you're right. That PTSD and that stress is going to take its toll.
So now we've had a situation. I've been here for over a week now, and there is enormous enormous stress on a normal level for law enforcement. Here, it's exacerbated, and the pressure on the department is immense. So we saw a search warrant being served about 5 days ago, and everybody was, full of anticipation that this was going to be something. Well, it turned out it was a dead end. Then last night, once again, we're set up in the parking lot of the Pima County Sheriff's, and we saw the SWAT team roll out again. We got information they had some a major lead here, and they went to serve a search warrant. It was a big deal. The SWAT team, did their thing. They were there for hours, and it looks like the FBI was with them. The FBI has been so silent here. I've never seen them like this. Although they actually did come out publicly and say that the sheriff was hampering the investigation. They didn't say hampering. They said he was not cooperating as well as he should, or something.
Well, I want to point that out to our audience. The FBI is only being silent because how it works is they're sort of at the behest of the local agency, right? They have to be a welcoming environment. So there's no question that the sheriff has shut them down vocally and maybe even inside that work as well. So that's not because of the FBI. That's because of the leadership there of that local agency.
But the frustration of the FBI if they come out publicly and say it.
Yeah.
So that forced the sheriff to communicate with the media. So this is important. So after the first two press conferences, he was just raked over the coals by many journalists, and yours truly included. And he just stopped talking to the media entirely. He just shut down. He's just not communicating. And until yesterday, he started talking, but he refused to do a press conference. He hasn't done a press conference in about a week.
Yeah, and one of the most high-profile cases, since John Benet Ramsey, almost 40 years ago. This is no question the highest profile case in America since then. No press conference for 1 week from the leader.
So what he did yesterday, he took a series of interviews. Like he's afraid to do this in a conference. So what he did was he chose Fox News. You come from 1 to 2. Hey, News Nation. I'll see you. So he did one-on-one interviews, and I've been watching those interviews, and it's really something to see, Travis, and it's. Here's the thing: if you're the public here in Tucson, this happened just hours ago. Perfect illustration. I was finishing lunch in a local establishment, and these people came up to me and they said, "Hey, I saw you on Fox News talking about the the Guthrie case," and they unloaded on me on their dislike for the sheriff. I mean, they didn't know. The only thing they knew about me was I was a retired Las Vegas police lieutenant, and I was talking about the case. They live here, and they've lived here for a long time, and they basically said, this guy, they don't know how he got elected. I felt like I was a psychologist, and I was letting them vent to me to get it out of their systems, and they're not the only ones. I mean, this is on the minds of everybody here in Tucson. So
yeah, Randy, and that's
so they don't. If they have a lack of confidence, Travis, it's based on what they're seeing from their sheriff, and so it's all based on his performance.
Yeah, and we could break that down. I'm not going to keep you too much longer, Randy. I want to first thank you for being willing to talk about the leadership from the sheriff, because all these gurus are running around out there, leadership gurus or police. No one ever calls it like it is. No one ever points the finger at the actual problem. And leadership is the problem. In fact, the reason you and I are so passionate about law enforcement leadership is if a mistake in leadership in this profession causes lives to be lost, or
100%, 100%,
causes investigations to be destroyed. It causes irreparable damage. If they catch somebody today and they put up a defense, what they did at that crime scene will hurt the prosecution, will hurt the Guthrie family, will hurt the outcome of that case. And so that's why it's so passionate. That's why I saw Betsy doing it. Then I saw you talking about it. I went, ooh, it must be bad if they're on Fox News talking about leadership, which thankfully you're so graciously came on the show to talk to our audience. That's what we talk about all the time. But you won't find that, Randy. No one ever wants to touch this hot button. But if we don't touch this button, we don't actually fix anything.
No, you're 100% right, Travis. And you know, there's 18,000 different police agencies in this country. Every single one of them has a chief or a sheriff or whatever, the commissioner or whatever they call them. And so without their understanding of what the tenets of leadership should be, then those communities are facing danger, the officers are in jeopardy because of physical, emotional health issues. And that's why you and I care so deeply about it. We understand that there are great leaders out there. Listen, you and I both know a bunch of them too, right?
Right.
I wish we could clone some of the people that we have met that are just exceptional. And you know what it really comes down to, Travis, I fully believe this, is caring.
Yep.
Caring about the people that you serve, and about the people who work with you and for you. If you care about them, your leadership role is going to enhance their lives, and that should be the goal of every police leader.
Yeah, it's so interesting you say that, Randy, because in our seminar, we literally have an entire section built out on that. Because when we speak to policemen across the country, no matter where they are, small town, big town, no matter what rank, the central theme is, I just want to be cared for. That's the central theme we always hear. That's what the research says. It's not difficult to do, and it's just mind-numbing that we have such a problem doing it. Randy Sutton, founder of the Wounded Blue. I can't thank you enough for being here. How can people find out about the Wounded Blue? How can they donate to that? Because it's an incredible organization.
It is an incredible organization, and we've helped more than 17,000 law enforcement officers since we opened the doors about 7 years ago. We're literally saving lives, saving careers, saving marriages, and changing lives. So please go to thewoundedblue.org. Thewoundedblue.org. See who we are. See what we do. Give what you can. We have our 9/11 campaign. We're asking people to donate just $9.11 a month, and you can literally play a role in changing the lives of law enforcement officers across this nation.
And Randy, I'm so glad that Fox has you on the ground there. That the few people that didn't know you definitely know you now. You've been one of the biggest supporters for me through the decades. You've been the biggest supporter for what we do in leadership through the decades and the courageous leadership program that we have. And I just want to take this time to be a big supporter for you. You are a shining example of what law enforcement should be. You're representing the profession just in an incredible way. And my wife will tell you, I will often look at these pundits on TV and say some nasty words about them, because they take their 4 years of law enforcement experience and try to tell me what to think. Man, I'm so glad you're the one doing it. You're doing an incredible job. I appreciate what you're doing. I know the Guthrie family appreciates it. Our prayers go out to them. Thanks for the job you're doing, Randy.
Now, Travis, you are a leader in thought when it comes down to the law enforcement community, and that's why I've been such a big fan of yours for these years. You are indomitable when it comes down to your passion for the profession.
Well, God bless you, brother, and we'll talk to you soon, Randy. Everybody, Randy Sutton, check out thewoundedblue.org. And, of course, you're seeing him on your TV screens right now. We pray for a great success there for him and the Guthrie family.